changed, renewed, flowing from the grace that I found in you. Lord, I've come to know the weaknesses I see in me will be stripped away by the power of your love. Hold me close, let your love surround me. Bring me near, draw me to your side. And as I wait, I rise up like the eagle, and I will soar with you. Your spirit leads me on in the power of your love. Lord, unveil my eyes, let me see you face to face, the knowledge of your love as you live in me. Lord, renew my mind as your will unfolds in my life, in living every day. gives way to victory. I'll see the light of glory and I know He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He owns my future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds my future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. What I hope there, because He lives, I can face tomorrow and I can face the future.
Thank you, Lord.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see You. I want to see You. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see You. I want to see You. To see You high and lifted up, shining in the light of Your glory. Pour out Your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see You. I want to see You. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see You. I want to see You. To see You high and lifted up, shining in the light of Your glory. Pour out Your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. You high and lifted up, shining in the light of Your glory. Pour out Your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. To see You high and lifted up,
But we're so thankful, Lord, that we can draw near to you all the time. As you are holy, even though you are holy, your love is unconditional and can come to you at any time, Lord. So thank you for that. We're going to sing our last song, King of Kings, Majesty.
King of kings, majesty, God of heaven, living in me, gentle Savior, closest friend, strong deliverer, beginning and end. All within me falls at your throne, your majesty. I can but bow. I lay my all before you now. In royal robes, I don't deserve. I live to serve your majesty. Earth and heaven worship you. Love eternal, faithful and true. Who brought the nations, ransomed souls, brought the sinner into your throne. And all within me cries out in praise. Your majesty, I can but bow. I lay my all before you now. In royal robes, I don't deserve. I live to serve your majesty. Your majesty, I can but bow. I lay my all before you now. In royal robes, I don't deserve. I live to serve your majesty. I live to serve your majesty. I live to serve your majesty.
Father, we thank you for your worship and your praise this morning. We ask as we go into listen to your word that you will meet us at the point of our needs. You will touch our hearts and you will give us your wisdom. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name.
153 reasons to believe, and it's still the Easter holidays and we're right in the middle of the resurrection, you know. 153 reasons to believe the man who came back. Is he dead or is he alive? Probably the most fundamental question any human being can ask themselves. Is he dead or alive? I don't know whether anyone has ever said to you, when you're a Christian, Steve, you've got to believe in all that Easter nonsense. You've got to believe in the resurrection. You've got to believe it because you're a Christian. So they basically saying, look, you belong to the tribe called Christianity, and therefore you've got to take it all and believe it. Close your eyes to the facts, cross your fingers and believe it. Just take it blindly on faith. Well, let me tell you, it's the exact opposite for me. I believe in the resurrection because of the facts, because of the evidence. I believe in the resurrection for one simple reason. I'm a Christian for one simple reason. Because it's true. Because it's true. I don't want to be a Christian because it makes me feel nice. I don't want to be a Christian because I've got a hope in the future. I want to be a Christian because it's true. And the Bible actually says, if this resurrection thing is not true, we are to be pitied more than all people. Because however lovely our singing was today, we are singing to the ceiling. Alright? Okay? So this is the key. Now I don't know about you, but unless you are, a super spiritual person, during your Christian journey, there will be days, weeks, months, maybe years. The dark days of the soul is often called, where doubt and unbelief can wash over you, yeah? And where do you go? I tell you what, churchianity doesn't have the answers sometimes when those days come, right? Religion definitely hasn't got the answers. For me, there's two places you go. You go to the blood-stained man on the cross. He never changes, he never moves. He's real. He's real. And you come to that empty tomb. And that's where we're going to go today. Reasons to believe. Let's go to that empty tomb, okay? The Christian faith stands or falls on the resurrection, okay? That's where it all stands and falls, okay? What happened 2,000 odd years ago at the time of the resurrection, the church burst alive. The central thing to it all, what they were declaring, this Jesus who you killed is now alive. A guy called Tim Keller. Oh, sorry. My quote is not on there, it's in my notes. A guy called Tim Keller said this. He said, if Jesus rose from the dead, then you have to accept all that he said. If he didn't rise from the dead, then why worry about anything? Why worry about anything of what he said? The issue on which everything hangs is not whether or not you like his teaching, but whether or not he rose from the dead. Lord, you got my wrong one up. You got my wrong one. It's 153, week 3. I think that's week 2. So what we're going to look at today is four minimal facts about the resurrection, right? There's so many things we could talk about the resurrection, but we're going to talk about 4 things. And if we can grab hold of these 4 things, I hope it will give us all much more confidence to share our faith. Our faith is based on evidence, reasons to believe. Not just wishful thinking, alright? Reasons to believe. And these 4 things will hopefully encourage us all to really, really believe in this resurrection and to have much more confidence in sharing it. And there's 4 minimal facts. And even the biggest cynics, the biggest critics of Christianity, ultimately, virtually all of them, right, will accept these 4 minimal facts. Okay? So the facts are not so much an issue. It's how we then interpret these facts. Okay? So, it's the wrong one though. Sorry, Matt. Don't worry, we go without the PowerPoint we have to. It's not on there, is it, Lord?
I don't see it, no.
I'm looking at my bag, Lord, on the hard drive in my bag. 153, week 3. But don't worry, if it's not there, don't worry. So the first fact is this, right? And you might say, Steve, why are you telling us how? We know that. Fact 1, and this is reason 72 with 153 reasons, right? Jesus died. To have a resurrection, you have to have a dead body. Yeah? Okay? Jesus died. He was dead. Okay? The Bible makes it absolutely clear in all of the Gospels that the Romans crucified him. Okay? It was a very common method of execution. The Romans were professionals at it. He was dead. In the Gospel of John, it says that the Roman executioners broke the legs of the 2 men who were dying either side of him. But when they came to Jesus, they didn't need to do that because he was already dead. In the book of John, in chapter 19, it says this: when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. Now, the disciple John, the apostle John, who wrote those words, he was not medically qualified, and this was 2,000 years ago, right before pathology had really developed. John just wrote what he saw. He saw blood and water pumping out separately from Jesus' body when the spear went in. But a modern day doctor, a modern day pathologist will tell you that that is a very, very certain sign that the person is dead. The heart has stopped pumping and the water and the blood have separated. And it's a clear sign that the person is dead. Now some people, some critics of Christianity say he wasn't dead. This was not a resurrection. This was a resuscitation. This is someone who's basically had a bad time, he's struggled a bit, he's fainted, and he's just woken up. Okay? It's a resuscitation, not a resurrection. Now, there's a number of problems with this. Firstly, we've already said about one of them. The Roman soldiers who killed him were used to doing this. We know they were killing 3 that day, at least. They were professionals, right? This is what they did for a living. All right? They were professional executioners. They would have lost their jobs if they hadn't killed him. They were told to go and check on him, to make sure he was dead, and they went and checked on him. Another big point is this, right? I know there's some naughty boys in this room like myself, right? I don't know what things were like in Nigeria, but in our schools you used to be able to have the cane, all right? I've had a few of them, right? 24, I think they come in 6s, right? And they go and you got like a bamboo stick and they give you the cane, right? I know Julian's nodding, he's had a few, right? Okay? But the flogging, the whip that they used on Jesus wasn't like that. It was a big whip with bone and metal in the end of it, right? As he was lashed into his body, it tore, it ripped sinews, ligaments, flesh. Very few people survived the Roman flogging. And Jesus was flogged well before the crucifixion, right? It probably explains why he started to carry his cross and he couldn't carry it very far, because of what he'd already gone through. To say that he just resuscitated after that alone, let alone then the nails, the spear, and all of the other things he went through. It's just not in any way logical, and there's a much bigger reason, isn't it? If Jesus had just resuscitated, then everything that happened afterwards was one big lie. And everyone who died for that lie was just backing up a lie. So the resuscitation thing just doesn't hold water at all. It just does not hold water. Not there, is it, Lord?
It's there. This.
It's there now, is it? Should be if you click on a bit.
This. That's week 3.
Yeah, keep going. There we go. So that's the first thing. The first reason we got is that Jesus was dead. Okay, I think we're all happy with that in this room, right? Anyone who argues he wasn't dead, they're talking nonsense, basically. So most normal people out there would accept he was dead. Okay? That's easy, isn't it? Whether he came back from dead is the big thing, right? But most normal people would accept there was a Jesus and he died. Okay? He was really dead. So the second one is this. This is the big one for me. The tomb was empty. The tomb was empty. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, that's John, yeah? And he said, they've taken the Lord out of the tomb and we don't know where they have put him. So Peter and the other disciples started running for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter. What? Turn to my notes. The other disciple outran Peter and got to the tomb first. He bent over and looked in at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went inside. He saw and believed. Jesus was crucified on a Friday, we know. He was laid in a tomb nearby. The tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, yeah. The next day was the Sabbath, the Saturday. And then on the first day of the week, the Sunday, that Mary Magdalene and the others came along and they found the empty tomb. They ran off and they told the disciples, and then we get this part of the story. It's quite clear if you read the preaching of the early disciples, the teaching of the early disciples. They are declaring the tomb was empty, the body was gone. That's what Christianity is based on, an empty tomb. Well, we got the stable at Christmas, and we got an empty tomb at Easter. So what are the alternatives? You know, if the tomb was empty, where had this body gone? Alright, where had the body gone? Well, The first alternative is that the Romans or the Jews, they were both in on the execution, the murder, the mock trial, weren't they? The first alternative is that they stole the body. They removed it. Okay? Why would they have removed it? Well, maybe they thought the disciples were going to remove it, and so they removed the body for safekeeping. Okay? Well, that doesn't make much sense when you know what happened next. 7 weeks later, in Jerusalem, the very same city where the empty tomb was, presumably where the body would have been kept, 7 weeks later, Peter stands up at Pentecost and he preaches the first ever sermon of the church. He says that Jesus who you killed, God has declared him Lord and King, and he's risen among us, and he is alive, and you need to repent and believe. And over 3,000 people came to faith and were baptized 7 weeks after this. Just think of it for one moment, right? With my lawyer's head on, it's obvious, isn't it? If the Romans or the Jews had Jesus' body, they would have got a wheelbarrow, or whatever the equivalent was, and they would have wheeled him out right in front of Peter, with all the visible marks in his hands, in his side, in his legs, in his head, where the crown of thorns had been. They said, Peter, you're a liar, shut up. There he is, he's dead. They didn't have the body, obviously, right? The Romans and the Jews did not remove the body. If they had it, they would have produced it, and they would have killed Christianity. There would be no Christianity. It would have died in Jerusalem at Pentecost. It would have died. It would have been proved to be a lie. So they definitely did not have the body, right? Didn't. Absolutely. There would be no Christianity if they did. So what's the other alternatives? Well, the other alternatives is that the Christians stole the body. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Remember what all the men were like at the time of Jesus' death. You know, Peter betrayed him to a little girl. They were scared, they were disillusioned, they were desperate. They were, you know, the women were a lot more faithful, right? But, you know, they were in tears. You know, everything that they'd been living for, everything they'd been dreaming for was over. They didn't see the resurrection coming. Why would they steal the body? What possible reason? And you might say, well, they stole the body to stop the Romans, you know, mutilating it or something. Well, okay. But then you've got that big problem. 7 weeks later, Peter stands up and preaches one big huge lie. And then apart from John, every single one of the disciples gets martyred, killed, for continuing that lie right the way up until they die. And these are not people who believe in the lie, these are the people who are starting the lie. You know, they're not being conned by someone down the line, they're not being scammed by someone. These are the people who say they ate fish on a beach with Jesus. They say he came into a room and shared communion with them. They say he walked along a road with them and broke bread with them. It doesn't make sense for them to have had the body. It just does not make sense. The similar argument is, well, yeah, it's all just a legend. It's all just a legend, you know? Well, again, it comes back to lying again. And there's another little one, isn't there? A real miscellaneous one here, if you like. You know, out of all the main religions in the world, Christianity is the one there. Nobody really has a pilgrimage to a grave, because our grave is empty. Alright? You can go to Muhammad's grave, but our grave is empty. It's an empty tomb. Christianity is founded on an empty tomb. So the simplest explanation is the body's gone because what they said happened. None of the other theories make any sense. But if you just stop there, the empty tomb, I probably believe, I've got to be honest, but we've got two more reasons, right? Two more facts that take us further. Oh, sorry, I should have clicked that through. Oh, there's a guard there as well. For the stealing of the body, they would have to have got past the guard, yeah? How they would have got past the guard, right? They were scared of the little girl, but they had to go past the guard. And then the legend. And here's the other problem as well. You know, this business of a legend. If I said to you that my father died in 1996, right? If I started going around Treherbert, where my father was from, and started telling them, no, Di Evans, you know, his nickname, Di Avalanche. Remember Di? Yeah. Well, guess what? He's not dead. He came back from the dead. He's alive. If I started walking around Treherbert and talking to my dad and from and telling them that, it would be very, very difficult, yeah? A lot of people believe this is one of the earliest scriptures in 1 Corinthians 15. They believe it was an early creed of the church. It's what they used to say to one another, to encourage one another. And it says, "For I delivered to you what is of importance, what I also received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the scriptures. He was buried. He was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures. And he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have fallen asleep." And Paul goes on, right? But that was the early creed. And this creed, many people believe, was in existence within 15 years, 20 years of Jesus being killed. I couldn't walk around Turbot, 23 plus 4, 27 years after my father's death, and start telling people, "My dad's alive!" They go, "No, he's not. He's buried in Torquay Cemetery." Nobody shut them down. Nobody shut them up. Nobody said, "No, he's not. He's buried in that tomb up there, man. You're talking nonsense." Nobody shut them up. So we got the fact he was dead. We got the fact there was an empty tomb. And then we go on to this one. Witness evidence, yeah? We've talked about DNA evidence that all the prophecies point to Jesus Christ. We looked at Jesus' own claims, that he said he was the one, he was the Messiah, he was God the Son. We've looked at all of that. And now we've got all this eyewitness evidence. In any trial, eyewitness evidence is weighed as really important, isn't it? Significant, substantial. So we look at a lot of eyewitness evidence here, right? So after the tomb was declared to be empty, and I think you've got to be honest, it must have been empty, right? The body must have gone. If it was still in the tomb, they would have got it out, right? Body's gone somewhere, okay? Gone somewhere, okay? So after the tomb was empty, Jesus' disciples say that they hugged him, right? They hugged him. Jesus had this supernatural body, didn't he? He wasn't a ghost, but he had a resurrection body. Our bodies are going to be resurrection bodies, amen? It was a new body, right? But it was one that ate fish. Hey, we get food, right? We're not going to be ghosts, there's food, right? He ate fish butties, we know that, alright? But we also know he could come through a wall. He came into a room which was all locked, remember? It was a supernatural resurrected body, but they hugged him. Right? He was no ghost, okay? He cooked for them. He could cook, alright? Unlike many men, he could cook, alright? And he ate food with them. They could touch, remember Thomas, they could touch his wounds. He was a physical, walking, talking, real Jesus. Not an apparition. Right, we're talking a minute. Not an hallucination. He was real. So we've got, right, the death of Jesus, not at all unexpected. Somebody, the Romans thought was a threat the Jews didn't like. They put him to death. Okay, you can understand that on a human level, right? The empty tomb is a little bit perplexing, you know. What happened to the body, we can debate it, discuss it. But this now, these testimonies, this eyewitness evidence, is now extraordinary. Okay? If I started walking around Tylerstown and said, my mate is no longer, my dad's no longer, yeah, it's extraordinary, right? If it's true, yeah? If it's not true, I'm either a liar or I'm a nutter, yeah? But if it's true, it's extraordinary. People do not come back from the dead. Okay? Jesus rose Lazarus and a few others from the dead, but they were going to die again, right? This is a resurrected, eternal, never going to die body, right? No one had ever done it before, no one had done it since, yeah? Jesus was the first, he made the way for us, yeah? He done it, okay? So this is big stuff, right? We haven't got time to read all the accounts, but I know they're there for you to read. You know that at the end of all the Gospels, Mary, we've read a little bit of Mary's account in the garden. Peter and John in the tomb. We got Thomas in the upper room, yeah? We got that wonderful story of the disciples on the Emmaus Road, and as he broke the bread and as he opened up the scriptures, yeah? We got the incredible fishing and fish butty story in John 21, yeah? The food on the beach, the barbecue. And at the end of that passage in Corinthians, Paul talks about his own conversion. So we've got Mary in the garden, Peter and John, Thomas, the Emmaus Road. And then Paul, who was Saul, remember he was a religious terrorist. He was persecuting the church. He was trying to destroy the church. And Jesus meets him on the road. And he comes to faith. He says, I saw the Lord. Paul declares that he saw the risen Jesus. Some people say, oh, Paul had an epileptic fit. That's what happened to him. This is a man who was murdered in the church, who then gave his life, was persecuted, was flogged, was beaten to almost to death, ended up in jail, martyred for it. An epileptic fit. He saw the risen Jesus. That's his testimony. That's his testimony. And in that creed that I read you from Corinthians, the early church, 15 to 20 years, that's what they had written down, that's what they were passing around, that's what they were declaring. Risen from the dead. Now, I have to say to you that to explain resurrection to someone, it takes faith, doesn't it, to believe in a resurrection. But if you look at it the other way, what are the alternatives to that empty tomb? I don't see any natural alternative, any easy to explain alternative. I don't know whether some of you ever watched Star Trek, or if anyone, someone back there, or any of you watched Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Well, in one episode of Star Trek, you've got Spock quoting Sherlock Holmes. But this is what Spock said. If you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. The tomb is empty. The body's gone, dead or alive. And for me, he's alive. Over 500 people, Paul says, seen him, the risen Jesus. Over 500 eyewitnesses. Now remember, this is 15 to 20 years after it all happened. So if you want to go and investigate the truth, like Dr. Luke did, the guy who wrote Luke's Gospel, you can go and speak to these people. Peter, did you really see it? Yeah. Did he really make you fish on the beach? Yeah. John, did you really see it? Yeah. Thomas, did you really see it? Yeah. Mary, did it? Yeah. And the 500 we don't even get the names of, yeah? So many eyewitnesses, yeah? So many. One of the Lord Chief Justices of England said there are more eyewitnesses to the resurrection than any other trial that I'd ever sat on. There is more eyewitness evidence of the resurrection than any other eyewitness evidence I've ever dealt with. This is an overwhelming amount of eyewitness evidence. Overwhelming. And not people coming up with it 300 or 400 years later. Very soon after Jesus died. Steve, okay, I accept they didn't lie because they died for it. I accept your argument they didn't lie, they genuinely believed it. But it was all an hallucination. They genuinely believed something that wasn't true. Well, if you speak to any modern day psychiatrist, psychologist, 500 people plus cannot have the same hallucination. An hallucination is an individual thing. I'll give you an example. Some of you were into sport, some of you were not, but here's an example from the world of sport. There's a World Cup in rugby coming this autumn, okay? Let's say I went into a big sleep now, and I started dreaming about the World Cup in the autumn, okay? And I woke up in December, and I started saying this. Wales wonderful in the World Cup. Do you remember how they topped the group, destroyed South Africa in the group? And then they went and beat Australia, remember? In the quarter-final. And then, for the first time since 1953, in the semi-final, we beat the All Blacks. And then everyone fancied France. They were the whole nation. They were beating everyone before them, and we smashed them in the final. And Wales won the World Cup. Now, unless alone more of you have had that same dream, right? Don't matter how much I believe that dream, right? I can keep saying that dream forever and ever and ever. It will not change the fact Wales hadn't won the World Cup, okay? It's not a prophetic word, by the way. Please don't slay me if Wales don't win the World Cup in September. But that's how daft it is, isn't it? You don't have the same hallucination, and what the psychiatrists are telling you, this can't be an hallucination. It could be a lie. But they'd all have to be lying. And like I said, most of them died for it. It cannot be an hallucination, right? It's an individual thing. You don't get 500 plus people having the same hallucination. Wales winning the World Cup seems incredible. Jesus Christ coming back from the dead seems incredible. But look at the evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. One more to do. Lord, I think you have to do it up there, but... So we've looked at the fact Jesus was dead. We've looked at the fact there was an empty tomb. And fact 3, we've looked at the fact loads of people said he was back from the dead. Now most non-Christians will accept that. Whether it's true what they said is another issue, yeah? Most non-Christians accept Jesus died, there was an empty tomb, and the church claimed he was alive. But here's the 4th reason, and to me, this is the biggest reason of the lot. The changed lives. The changed lives. Let's go back to Good Friday, to the crucifixion. Jesus' followers, especially the 11 disciples, were destroyed. They were distraught. They were disillusioned. They were disappointed. They disappeared. They're gone. This was not a bunch of people that were going to change the world. They were not. They were gone fishing. They'd gone fishing. They'd gone home. They quit. It was over. Their incredible friend, their amazing hero, had died. It was over. Despite the fact Jesus had told them, they didn't grasp hold of it, that he was coming back from the dead. They didn't expect it. This was totally unexpected to them. So what on earth happened? Peter, scared of a little girl. Wonder with a little girl, scared stiff. I never met him, I don't know him, I don't speak with an accent from Galilee, no, I got a posh accent, I have. Scared of a little girl. 7 weeks later, standing up in front of the Romans, the Jews, everybody in the middle of the city, saying to them, that Jesus who you killed him, God has declared Lord and King, and he's come back from the dead. And we are witnesses to this fact. And he wants you all to repent and believe here today. And the Spirit moved, didn't he, with fire. And 3,000 people believed and were baptized. What on earth had happened if the resurrection hadn't happened? What had happened? These lives were transformed. And it wasn't just a one-off. They went on and on and on. They kept preaching it and preaching it. They were beaten for it. They were whipped for it. You know, we know the story that Nero came along and the Christians were persecuted in horrible, horrible ways, yeah? Legend has it that every single one of them, apart from John, died horrible deaths because of their faith. Something had happened that meant they could never, ever, ever deny the truth that he was risen. He'd come back from the dead, and he was the resurrection. He was the way, the truth, and the life, yeah? Jesus, it's easy for someone to stand up on a table and say, I'm the Son of God. I'm the Messiah. Anyone can stand on that table and say it. But the proof of the pudding is in the rising. The proof of the pudding is in the resurrection. I am the Son of God, and I'm going to prove it to you when I come back from the dead. The man who came back, Jesus Christ. I don't believe for 1 minute that the disciples were deluded. I don't believe for 1 minute they were liars. Read their writings. Read John's Gospel. It's some of the most beautiful words anyone could write. Whether you believe it or don't believe it, it's beautiful. Madman, liar, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm just going to fly through for 2 minutes to finish. Lord, can you click along for me for a minute? Sorry, this is the summary. Jesus died, the tomb was empty. Keep going, Lord. Post-resurrection, eyewitnesses, and a transformation. So what we got there, we got some more coming. Miscellaneous reasons, right? The Bible tells us where Jesus was buried. They tell us he was buried in a local councilman, Joseph of Arimathea's grave. So if anyone wanted to go and check out if the body was still there, they could go to the exact grave. Body gone, yeah? We know the grave, reason 86. Now, if I was writing a story about the resurrection, my son Sam doesn't eat tomatoes, right? Never has. I said to my grandson, his son, if Dad was going to eat a tomato, one off, whenever, and you wanted to believe him, what would you need to see? I need to see it, he said. Isn't it incredible? The actual resurrection, when Jesus actually came out of the tomb, nobody saw it. If I was making up the story, I'd have thousands of people seeing it, right? There's no eyewitnesses to the actual resurrection. When he actually stepped out of it, no one saw it. Makes me think it's true, yeah? If you were making it up, you'd make sure everyone saw it, right? The next thing, the first witnesses, the most relied upon witnesses, are all women. And in those days, the evidence of a woman couldn't be heard in a court of law. Sadly, a woman was treated like an object, in effect. But God's book, God's story, is a woman who were honoured with the privilege of being the first witnesses. Amen? If you were writing it up, you'd have the mayor, the dignitaries want to be the first witnesses. No, God's book. The first, like the shepherds were outcasts, yeah? They were the first at Christmas. It's women who were on the outside of Jewish society at that time, who were the witnesses. There was loads and loads of eyewitnesses, we've covered that. And then why did the church explode? At Pentecost, what caused it to go from there to what it is today? Without the resurrection, there would be no Pentecost, and there would be no church today. It's quite clear something happened that caused all that explosion to happen. And here's the thing, at Pentecost, 7 weeks later, the enemies are silent. Nobody is speaking. Nobody is saying, shut up, Peter. Not one account of them telling him to shut up. Here's another little one. As a lawyer, I love this one, right? If you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there's slight differences between the resurrection accounts. There's slight differences. Now, I've done criminal trials, right? And in the dark days of policing, if the police were going to give evidence in a trial, what would they do beforehand, do you think? They'd all sit down and compare notes, wouldn't they? To make sure that their police notebooks matched. Well, I believe that these stories are all genuine. If we all saw a big fight there now, right? If there was a fight out there with 10 different people in a fight, guess what? We'd all see different things. We'd all stress different things. We'd all emphasize different things. And I believe the fact that there are slight differences in the story give them credibility, not the opposite. It makes them believe they're true. Why did the church start meeting on a Sunday and not a Saturday? It all changed. All those years of Jewish history, meeting on a Sabbath, suddenly they were meeting on a Sunday. Why? You know, if Jesus didn't rise on a Sunday, why did they start meeting on a Sunday? Why did that change? Why did circumcision get chucked out and baptism come in? Okay, we're going to sort that baptism as soon as that warm weather comes. In baptism, what's the symbol? Buried in the water as a symbol of burial and risen to new life. What's the point of baptism if you haven't risen? Baptism is buried, resurrection. Baptism becomes the new thing for the church to do. Communion. Why would we celebrate Jesus being dead if he was still dead? Why would we remember him in that way if he was still dead? Why did communion become so central to what the church did? The calendar. What's the date today? We wouldn't have a change in date if we were celebrating a dead man. The fact the tomb is not revered, we've covered that. No, nobody goes to the tomb because it doesn't matter to us. The fact it's empty is what matters, not the actual tomb. And over the years, so many people have set out to disprove Christianity and along the way have come to faith. So many people have come to faith along the way. Back in 1853, going back in time, right, the most famous lawyer in the world at the time was a guy called Simon Greenleaf. He was a master of evidence law at Harvard. And somebody challenged him. Simon, will you go away and will you look at the New Testament? Will you destroy the resurrection for us? Will you destroy Christianity for us? And a few months later, he was a Jewish professor, by the way. And a few months later, he came back a Christian. He said the evidence for the resurrection is overwhelming. I cannot believe, I have to believe in Jesus as my Lord, my Saviour. More recently, many of you may know the story of Lee Strobel, Chicago Tribune journalist. His wife comes to faith. His wife, he thinks, goes odd, becomes a Christian, starts going to church, goes a bit odd in his opinion. He thinks, I'm going to investigate this and prove it all to be a lie, using his journalistic skills and his books. the case for Christ, the case for Easter, the case for faith, the case for the Creator, share his journey into faith. He set off to destroy Christianity. He looked at the evidence and he came to faith. Just to finish, Lord Darwin, Lord Chief Justice of England, there exists such overwhelming evidence, positive and negative, factual and circumstantial, that no intelligent jury in the world could fail to bring in a verdict that the resurrection story is true. Becoming a Christian is a step of faith, I accept that. But it's not a step into the dark. It's a step into the light. It's a step into the evidence, into the truth. And Jesus says, you will find me when you seek me with all of my heart. Can I just encourage you? Jesus did die. Right? There's no resuscitation here. The tomb was definitely empty. Okay? Definitely. So many give testimony, give eyewitness evidence to seeing it. So many incredible, immoral, upright people who died for it. Who died for it. And fourthly, look at the evidence of the changed lives. Cowards into heroes. Fishermen who disappeared became martyrs. You have a faith you can trust, right? It's a faith that will see you safely into death, through death, and out the other side, right? He is risen. He is risen indeed. And because he lives, the song we sang there, everything else follows from there. I hope it encourages you, right? Don't be frightened to share your faith. We have an incredible amount of evidence behind our faith. Some people won't investigate, but they've got moral reasons not to. But anyone with an open mind, with an open heart who investigates, they will find Jesus Christ. Those who seek him will find him. I pray for those you were praying for. Right? This Tuesday, that's one of the things we're going to do. We're going to specifically pray for individuals in your family, in your workmates, in your neighbours, yeah? People who we believe God is drawing, who seek him. And let's pray for a harvest this year, yeah? The resurrection is so true. And when those doubts and those dark days of the soul come to you, I encourage you, come to the bloodstained man on the cross, but also remember that empty tomb. We serve a risen Saviour. It's not religion. He is real. Okay? He is real. Can I just pray? Is that alright? Lord, we covered a lot of stuff today. But Lord, I pray that the thing we have in our heart, in our soul, in our spirit, is that fact, that truth. You are alive. The grave could not hold you, death could not hold you, Satan and the depths of hell could not hold you. Lord, we thank you because you are alive, because you are risen. We have a faith in a resurrected Saviour. Lord, the tomb is empty, and because of that, we can declare he is alive. I trust him, I serve him, he will never ever leave me, he will never forsake me. All of my days he will hold me. Lord, I pray you fill each of us again with your spirit, fill us again with faith in you. That Lord, we will want to share it, not keep it to ourselves. It will just bubble over out of us, Lord. In the simple things, we will be able to share you. Help us to draw people into the truth that you are the resurrection. You are the way, the truth, and the life. Bless you, Lord Jesus. Bless you, church. Thank you. Amen. 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 I just encourage you, the last few weeks in my house, just over dinner, the simplest of conversations, like I said, we eating a tomato and we talked about the resurrection. Be open to those opportunities to share the reasons for the hope that you have. There are great reasons, yeah? We have great reasons, a great foundation. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.